Hey Zwifters, welcome to No Breakaways, your source for all the Zwift racing tips and tricks. We're back here for another week of Outside the Draft to talk about this week of Zwift racing. I'm here with my co-host Jacquie Godby
Hello.
and Jordan Shane. Yeah, good to have you both back. How are your guys' weeks? Do anything cool?
Ladies first, Jackie, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, so I actually took a break from Zwift this weekend to compete on RGT. Just finished up a 2.5 hour mountain stage this morning. So if I look absolutely exhausted, that's why.
I actually I tuned into Monalee's live stream this morning, and I was watching it for a couple minutes, and there you two were climbing a mountain. So
Yeah, it's been an exciting weekend. Really hitting very much like the Tour de Botica last weekend. There were three very, very separate stages. We started off with a time trial, we went to a circuit race, and we finished off on a mountain stage. So lots of different styles of racing. Just a little more endurance focused as we had, these Perry 2 hour races go on.
so you can't leave us hanging. How'd you do? When I saw you, you were in second.
Yeah, so I won. I pulled out another time trial because as a triathlete, that's what I love to do. And today I tucked right in behind the actual in real life winner of last year's stage, Krista Doble Hickok. And I stuck on her wheel knowing that she had the experience, she's got the climbing, she's a fantastic climber on Zwift, on RGT, and in real life. So I said, who better to learn from than the best? I'm going to copy what she does, learn that. And in about the last 500 meters of the battle, I was just able to put down a little more power and eke the finish line ahead of her.
Nice. Yeah,
And
congratulations.
the
Thank you.
overall victory as well.
Yeah, it was a GC style race where all the times go together. So I was very fortunate that my time trial performance on Friday really helped take some of the pressure off there.
That's awesome. So do
Thank you.
you
By take the pressure off, you mean win by a minute plus.
It made me not feel the need to go break the pack early and know that I could really just settle in and wait for the race to unfold. I think going into any race, 10 minutes in, you're like, oh my God, I'm in a pack of 20. Like, I don't want to be in a group sprint of 20 at the end. But, if it's a 2 hour race, it's like, no, no, hold your horses. Like, there's plenty of time for 20 other people to have their strategies to unfold. Like, just be patient.
Yeah, I am very much not a patient Swift racer at all. Like I'm really not patient at all. It's pretty
No.
bad. So did you like riding on RGT? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it's a very different style of racing than Zwift. One thing that introduces that Zwift does not is sort of forced braking around turns. So you see a lot more punchiness, know, on the time trial. It was a very different experience because there were curves in the road where I had to stop pedaling or I had to ease up on pedaling. And that's not something I was used to on Zwift. So it introduces another aspect of just gamification where you have to be on at all times.
Yeah, that's awesome. I actually I'm working on a video, so spoiler alert. I'm working on a video with Tom Thrall from Insured, and he coached me through an RGT race. It was
Oh,
just like a little
fantastic.
crit. It was really fun. I really enjoyed it. So
Cool.
yeah, it's an interesting platform. It's definitely different, and takes getting used to. And it's funny,
Uh,
I said that to you. I forgot that you did win the USA Nationals race on RGT, so you're pretty good at it.
Good.
I think actually the differences between Zwift and RGT really highlight the importance of learning the platform and the strategy that's in virtual cycling that we don't see. So as it evolves as a sport, we need to pay attention to what the physics engines are and what the rules are. Much like in real life where we're like, oh, if I do X on my bike, I will fall. You need to pay attention to each race, like what are the rules, what's the game, what's the system, and spend a lot of time learning it, which I think is a really fun aspect of virtual cycling in general.
Yeah. Jordan, have you tried RGT?
I've ridden on it. I tried RGTC. I'm like always the first guy on, but like the last guy to race because I tried it when it was like alpha, like 2016, and it was pretty trash at that point. But like it's totally different because they didn't have any racing back then. There was no drafting back then, as far as I know. But I've been watching. I like a lot of stuff that they're doing. I wrote an article at Zwift Insider sort of about the Premier League and sort of how the racing can be more exciting on Zwift. And one of the things is like, love to see some longer races. And I think people are like, oh, we don't have the attention span for that as viewers. But I think it allows some points of inflection where it becomes more interesting actually over that period instead of like a, near boil the whole time. It can go crazy and come back again and go crazy again. Because there's that unknown of like, if I attack now, what am I going to be able to do later? Uh, and I can actually bonk in this race, right? Like I can fall apart.
Yeah.
So I like it. The drafting's cool. I just don't really have the bandwidth myself to race the extra that in Premier League. Some guys are doing it, some gals are doing it. That seems like a lot to me.
Yeah, that actually is one very notable thing about today that we'll actually see unfold tomorrow in the Women's Premier League is, we see Krista Tracy, we see Double Hickok, who are going to be essentially racing 4 big races back to back to back. So they're coming off uh, this 3-day competition, and they're going to go for Zwift Premier League. They're going to go for those intermediate stages tomorrow, and so I just have the utmost respect for those races that can come back 4 days in a row.
Tomorrow's going
Yeah,
to be
I think
tough.
it's definitely possible as a professional athlete to race 4 days in a row. You can't do that every week. You can't do 4 on, 3 off, but which seems some people are doing. But for me, like I'm still maybe hoping in vain to have some real life season ahead and trying to like build to that with sort of a base period and like some training outside. So to do that, I don't think I could make any progress in training whilst doing that level of racing, but really respect the effort. Just to like, it's their choice too, right? It's not like the team is telling me you have to do 4 days in a row. Just to be like, yeah, I want to annihilate myself 4 days in a row is the respect there. So and congrats on the Oak Glen stage. I got the wooden medal on the real life version of that in 2019, the last year we did it, I guess, 4th place. So,
Oh wow, congratulations.
yeah, well, not quite the superstar finish, but it's a great stage and strategic climb because it has those flat parts in it, and then the tough finish. So, um, yeah, and for my racing, I guess we can talk. It's not exciting like that. I did the Premier League on Monday, team time trial. It was a team time trial. I didn't have the best ride myself. I was just kind of like 5% under what I would normally be able to put out, and that meant that I rode at 100% of what a normal put out for the first 23 minutes, and then fell apart completely. So yeah, I'm just that kind of guy. Like, I'm not going to try to leave anything on the table when it comes to helping the team, but you definitely feel that when you need every watt to be able to accomplish that. So that was difficult, and I think that was a trend with the Premier League and in lots of the community league is the teams would start off well, and like we talked about the undulations in that second half, it would just blow to bits a little bit, and you can just lose so much time. It's really hard to gain time in a team time trial because going from 50 kilometers an hour to 51 or whatever it is for your level is hard. But as soon as you screw something up and go down to 43, you're losing 8 seconds. There you go, it's gone. You try getting it back. Like that's tough. So but yeah, we moved up as a team into I think 12th overall, like 2 points out of 8th in the Premier League. So we're catching, kind of getting our footing there. It's good.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna brag a little bit. So I ride with the Draft B guys for the ZRL, and we won our time trial. We were 35 seconds faster than we last year on the same or last season on the same course, and that Yeah, that puts us. So we've last season we missed the first race, so we didn't get the full number of points. So we got put in the second division, which wasn't really fair. So we won the next 9 weeks, and so far we've won the 2 weeks this season. So we have 11 straight wins. So you know, it was a pretty good week. It was fun. Yeah, but to your point, Jordan, like we were like, well, let's start out a little bit easy, and then we'll pick it up the second half. And then we started out a little bit easy, and we just like stayed there because it kept getting harder. Like the back half of that course is really deceptive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you both say that because I actually got the opportunity to play DS for my fiance's team. He competes in the Zwift Racing League, and so we had 4 men doing this time trial, and everybody, we calculated the amount everybody could pull, and it was really that back half. We had to abort pretty much once we hit those rollers. All thought of what people could pull and turn into, okay, like just keep the last person on. Like, what do we have to do to maintain the draft to get that fourth rider to cross the line? Like, those rollers, I think, just slaughtered everybody pretty much evenly.
Yeah, I was dying. I had to skip like 2 polls, and then I was like, okay, well, I can make it. And then we had we had 5 guys on. We lost somebody. I can't remember, but then somebody had to drop out. No, we had 6, and somebody had to drop out in the rollers, and I was like, that was supposed to be me. Like I was coming off the back, and so I was just
Yeah.
like all out the rest of the way. I'm always like the last guy to finish on our team in the time trials. Like our we have a guy Scott DSing for us. He's wonderful, and he's always like, "Don't be the fourth guy. Don't be the fourth guy." And I'm always the fourth guy, always.
That's
You
team
know,
time trials. That's just an awesome part about them, though, is you don't realize quite how close you are to the ragged edge until something goes wrong,
Yeah,
and then because we all of a sudden somebody pulled through a little hard on our train, and we ran around a corner at the same time, and I got out of the draft, randomly like you do, and I lost 3 meters, and it's like, oh, well, that's all it took. Now the plan's out the window. I'm doing 400 watts to get back on, and it's over. So, but yeah, happy to put that one in the rearview mirror. But I think maybe, hopefully, everybody can take away some learning about team time trials from that course, because it's like a advanced degree, that one, compared to like a TikTok or something like that. That's hard.
yeah. I think it really emphasizes the team dynamics in terms like a team is only as strong as its weakest link. You can't go out and have like a personal best because that doesn't contribute to your team. Like, it really is coordination and saying, how can I help you? How can I help the other teammates? There's no showing off on this course. Like, it only hurts you.
yeah, yeah. That's I know the last time we did it, we had targeted too high at the start, and we definitely learned from that. So it was a good ride. It was fun. Like it's interesting. I thought so. I saw Eric Schlang on Swift Insider said that they did the divisions. This like the first division was the best one, and the second. And for some reason, we're in the second one again. I thought we were going to get promoted to the first one, but then the team that won the first division is in the third division. So I don't know. I don't know what happened, but like I wish they would have put you kind of like you're not racing against all the best teams in your division when you're there. And so it's like I don't know why they didn't put us all up there or like change the divisions around or if they're waiting for the knockout rounds. Either you guys know what is supposed to happen?
I'm unaware of how the rankings. I just kind of know the A to Premier League kind of battle and how that promotion works. I don't know how the lower levels work. But hey, man, if you're kind of like sandbagging without really sandbagging and just stacking
Where
take it. Come
no,
on.
listen, I'll take a bike race win anytime I can because I never get them by
Shift,
myself.
shift that camera, and Rick's got like 11 trophies in the background. Just
Yeah, I buy a new trophy every time we win a ZRL race. No, it's just like I mean, I'll take a win, but it's just like you kind of want to like you want to race against all the other best people and see how you stack up. Like, I'm on the finesse team with Jordan, and I know our B team won Division 1 last year. They're the one that's in Division 3, and we were really looking forward to racing them, you know. we may or may not have exchanged things saying we were going to beat each other. And so we were like, oh man, like why aren't we in the same division now? No.
Oh.
Oh well. So yeah, moving on. So week 3 we have the Innsbruck KOM after party. I'm never gonna say that it's a real party. I know Jordan raced this. I referenced him in the video. I raced it. It's terrible. So what do you both think about the course? Go ahead, Jordan.
Okay.
You can kick it off. You raced it.
I've been thinking about this one because I coach athletes for the ZRL. I want to do well at it. Like of the of the Premier League courses, it's probably fits me the best. It's going to be cool because it's the first mountaintop finish of the Premier League and of the Community League also. And so yeah, it's an interesting course. It's not just about that mountaintop finish. The 3 laps of the leg snapper are serious business. But the takeaways I had, sort of on the flats, like you break it down. There's the flats in between the leg snapper and the leg snapper, and then there's the finish. The flats, I think they're different than any other community league race that you've probably done because it's going to be easier. They just sort of float. Like in our race, an A race, we were doing like 3 watts a kilo, sometimes less than that, because everybody knows there's a big climb coming. And so you just kind of float for those first 4 kilometers. Even on the first lap, it's like, mass dash for the first minute, and then everybody just relaxes. And I think people make the mistake of like thinking they need to put out a certain amount of power because this is a race and just sort of jostling when they don't need to. Where you should just relax, and then in like the last 500 meters, you're sort of cobblestones, and then coming across the bridge to the leg snapper. That's where you can move up, like Rick said in his preview video. You get on the power there. You want to be in the top 20 if you're in a field of 50, 60. You want to be top third, I think, and then then it kicks, right. It just ramps up smoothly. And I've raced it a few times now. We went over it 3 times, obviously. Every single time, everybody goes as hard as they can. I don't know why. And that doesn't happen in real life. I don't understand. You just, you hit this climb, and it's something about it is short enough that everybody thinks they can just monster up it, and so they do. And so yeah, just be prepared to kick there. It's going to be hard no matter what, but you can sort of feather it. You don't want to go over in the top 3. There's no point. There's no KOM points there. And then you just have to be, it's kind of a technical descent, if you can say that about a Zwift race. You got to be on the wheels firmly over the top. Like you can super tuck, but then you have to have your eyes up because there's the bump in there. And then there's the sprint shortly after, which will be hotly contested because there's lots of points there with the new point structure. So yeah, that's how the lap breaks down, and then it's back to easy after the sprint. And then you can look forward to the big climb at the end. Which in our race, it was very, very controlled going into it. I sort of hit out at the beginning, sort of test things out. There's a couple guys that were doing crazy watts per kilo that took off ahead, and I just sort of did my own thing up the climb. But it's an interesting climb too because there's 4 plateaus sort of in it where it's like 2%. So you kind of have to make a decision. You have to really be honest with yourself. Like, am I going to blow up if I go hard enough to stay with the group to the next plateau? Because you're going to save time if you can make it there and get in the draft. But if you blow yourself up, you're going to go right out the back when it gets steep again. It's not like you can get off the pedals completely on the plateau. You're just saving time. You're making time. So you have to take a good look at your numbers, take a good look at how you're feeling, your heart rate at these different points, and decide can I stay on that train? Can I stay on those wheels? And if you can and sort of modulate your effort, you're going to get up that thing a lot faster than you would solo. And then the last sort of ditch attempt for an attack is 1,200 meters to go. You get a little 300-meter kick, and then you go over that, and it falls flat to the finish. So if you're a climber, probably hit it with 1,200. If you're a sprinter, hold on, and you're going to make it. So there you go.
That was quite a breakdown. That was more than I thought we were going to get. I got to be honest.
Well, I've written that out a few times this week. It's I got it in my brain, so might as well get it all out there.
What do you think, Jacquie? Have you raced this course before?
I have not done the KOM after party, but I have fond memories of that leg snapper with the USA Cycling crit races earlier this summer. And I actually think the leg snapper is going to be a big decisive point, particularly if we see teams, kind of splitting their strategy into the sprinters and the overall winners. I mean, that is just a fantastic place to break the pack, because you have that immediate super tuck after the hard sprint. So, and this was actually the first race I ever managed to break away on was because of the leg snapper. If you can surge in the last 100 or 50 meters of that hill and get a gap, if you take 2 or 3 other riders with you, take that arrow tuck, you're pretty much untouchable, and you have a good amount of time to sit and ride. And then if you go out and you put power on through that flat part, you can actually really nicely extend your lead. So I would actually expect that to be a pretty decisive point for teams that are looking for that overall time finish just to fracture the field.
Right.
I don't think we're going to see the sprinters take it. I think anybody who has their eye on picking up those points might sandbag and honestly just take finishing later. But that's going to be very interesting. And then, like you said, going up the big hill, it's very much a series of over-under efforts where you're going above your FTP, below it, and just sort of modulating based on where you are in the course and where the hill is. So it's going to be very, very different. I think this course hits really, you've got the punchers favored on the leg snapper. You've got the sprinters favored in, this 20-second sprint. And then anybody who's got that VO2, that really staying endurance power, is just going to succeed on that final hill. So it's a very interesting race. I think it's one of the more fun ones to watch, but I'm also very glad that I get a day off tomorrow.
Yeah, I've been very much working on my team for like the past week and a half to make sure that I'm one of the people trying to get the sprint points. Making sure I'm working that angle because I'm no good up that KOM.
Come on. You don't think you can steal a top 30 or a top 20?
Maybe.
Get a few
It
up
depends how
there?
much the field's blown apart by the first part. If I have a minute going into that hill, I could probably do it. But
Let's see it. That
yeah,
would be television. That would be great,
it's gonna
wouldn't it?
be that. Well, yeah, you can watch the race I did, and you get like I started that climb. I was stupid because I tried to do a bike change. I was like, oh, this will really be my thing.
Let's
I'll
talk about change.
I'll ride the
That-
Venge. I'll ride the Venge. I don't know why I was riding the Venge because I mean the main thing was a leg snapper and there were no other points. I don't know why I was doing that. And then I was like, I'm going to the Tarmac Pro. So I set it all up to switch to the I was riding the Tron, sorry. And I set it to switch to the Tarmac Pro. So it immediately go Tarmac Pro MV3. Like I practiced like moving my mouse like this, doing the little thing on it. Like I was set, 100% set. And then I get there, forgetting about the fact that I was going to be incredibly tired, and I like just way over scrolled and went to the top of the list, and I went to the bottom. Like you can see it on the video; it's just all over the place, and I'm like getting mad. And I switched my bike, and yeah, still got caught by lots and lots of people. I think I moved from 25th to 45th or so on the climb.
Yeah, I'm going to advise heavily against the bike switch for anybody considering that.
It's a bad
'Cause I
idea.
think I practiced the crap out of that for the Joe Martin virtual time trial because we ended up all being on TT bikes, but they said at the beginning you're going to be able to switch. And so that one, you can gain about 30 seconds switching bikes from TT to road up that final steep climb. So I practiced it. The best I ever did was a 12-second switch back to full speed again. And so that would have made sense, but I don't think you're gaining that much from like a Tron to a tarmac. So I don't think it's, and like Rick just said,
it was like 20 seconds, maybe.
Yeah, and it could be like a 68-second if you really get frustrated.
Yeah.
And
I can't imagine having that degree of dexterity while I'm that tired in the middle of a TT. Like, I'll be honest, sometimes it's hard for me to press the power up button. I'm just like, ah.
There you go. So no bike change, folks. You got
Yeah,
that tip here.
it's a bad idea. Well, so what I thought of after the race is I was like, I don't know why when I go to my Zwift garage, like I have to see everything. Like,
Right.
can't they just make it so like, oh, here's your next bike? Like you could just click a button, switch your bike. Like that would make it more like in the real world. When you get off your bike to do a bike change, they aren't like, here is all your bikes, figure out which one is correct.
Here's your mountain bike
Yeah.
and your taken. Yeah.
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 So yeah,
Wow.
I was just thinking about that. I was like, wish you could just
Sort of
like,
having like a favorite bike function sorted near the top.
yeah, yeah, like just like next to, because that would make it super easy then to do the bike change. You know what I mean?
And
Like,
style, of course, style points like for a bike change. It's pretty cool.
yeah,
But
yeah,
don't do a hard enough race without doing that.
yeah. I'm just gonna ride the. Well, I'll probably just ride the Venge, with a disc wheel since I'll be sprinting for points, whether my team likes it or not.
Make your intentions known.
Yeah, yeah. I'm working hard on them. Working. If they're listening to this, I hope they're not. It doesn't look like it. They're not chatting at me. So, all right. Well, do you all want to cover a couple races and yeah, and that's it. And then I'm gonna spring our one big thing on you. I haven't told you what it was gonna be this week, and so I'm gonna spring it on you at the end. Um, yeah. Why don't we do Jordan? Your race. We actually all covered the same race this week, which I think will be interesting. So Jordan, why don't you take it away and tell me when you want me to switch over to your video?
Okay, yeah, quick intro. Yeah, it was the vegan team vegan. How do you say this, Rick? How do you say this?
Tofu.
Tofu
They're
race.
you
It was on
can't
Saturday.
you speak the
Tofu
same
tornado.
language I do, Jordan.
Yeah, okay. No,
Maybe
so
you could speak French too, but we're all
just bear with me. Team vegan, tofu tornado, veganuary, stage 4.
oh
There you go. All that. Yeah, so that it was on Saturday, and I think we all picked it because it had great attendance. This has been a cool little series. And this was a cool course because it's the London Pretzel. So it's longer, 56K. You don't see that too often in a Zwift race. And it has the 2 key climbs of Fox Hill and Box Hill in the second half. So I picked the B race and watched that. And the action did kick off on Fox Hill. And sort of a couple of guys came to the fore, but I ended up picking the guy that was most aggressive on the climbs. And that was Alan Hudgell, a British rider from Race 3R. And we can roll the video now. And so, yeah, the race was pretty calm at the beginning for the first 30 something kilometers. And then we hit Fox Hill, and a couple riders, a team vegan rider and Alan, went off the front immediately. They started throwing down 6 watts a kilo because that Fox Hill has some real steep grades at the beginning. And so in the video, you can sort of see him hammering away. He left the vegan guy just dangling for a lot of it. But wisely at the top, I think they only had about 8 seconds over the chasing pack. And so he let the vegan rider go ahead, and he just went back to the pack and decided that wasn't the move of the day. And it turned out it wasn't. And so then quickly thereafter, Box Hill, he's at the front again on that one, testing the pace. His endurance is obviously really strong. And then if we're transitioning to the sprint clip right now,
yep.
Yeah, we can see that he made it to the sprint. It's a very reduced group. This race started with like 100 riders, and it was down to 16 or 20. And he's at the back. He's conserving energy. He's obviously had one of the hardest races of anybody out here today because of those climbing efforts, making it hard on everyone. Yeah, and you can see him at the back, just chilling. He's obviously got a lot of Zwift experience. And he waits right until the very last. And then there's some big powerhouses here who took out the sprint, but he made the absolute most of it, I think, as more of a steady state rider who had also played his cards and ended up 4th place. You can see he kicks right as these guys get on the final little ramp, and then you get the downhill, uphill to the finish. So yeah, you can see the guy on the front did like 18 watts a kilo. He obviously doesn't have that power profile, Alan, but he did very well to finish it off. And right at the end, you can see he sort of comes by into the frame. But yeah, I did some reading on him. He's a triathlete. He's been on Zwift a lot. He's done over 300 races. And it looks like he's had an injury in the fall from just a little note he put on his thing. He used to be sort of a bottom A rider. The injury obviously knocked him back, which that'll happen. I have a lot of empathy for that because I had a bad crash last year and was off the bike and had to come back from that. So he's working his way back up. He's into the Bs now, and he's pushing it. He's showing his strength. He's taking these guys on the climbs, whereas his endurance from being a triathlete is strongest. And this is a course. It was always probably going to come down to a reduced sprint, but kudos to him for trying. And he obviously took something out of the legs of a lot of the riders. And Team Vegan had the team here. They had like 8 riders, and they were all strong. And he managed to split them up, and really, I think he had one of the weaker teams, and got a great result out of it. So kudos to Alan, rider of the week in the Bs, and hopefully your recovery continues. You're back in the A's and killing it before you know it.
Yeah, definitely. Good breakdown. So as a note, because I can't just chat you, can you guys see my screen now? Sorry about that, Jordan.
That's all right. Yeah, I could see it in the second part of that. So
Yeah, that was my fault. We're still getting good at the live thing. I'm still learning. So yeah, excellent breakdown. And Jacquie took the C's for the vegan race. And do you want to do any lead in, or do you just want to cut straight to the video?
Yeah, I mean, I'll do a little bit of a lead in. So the C race, very, very similar. We actually saw in our third place winner on Zwift Power, we saw a woman. So all you women out there, don't just think you're limited to female only races. Like, get in the mix, men, women. Like, Zwift is an all inclusive platform. Just race. It's fun and it's a great workout at the same time. So there's my quick plug. Uh, and yeah, so category C, again, very, very well attended. We saw over 100 riders start, and it was a fast start. We saw really great powers out of the gate, very consistent with a lot of Zwift racing. Everybody's just very excited, trying to stay on that draft. But like the D category, we didn't really see any big moves until we hit Fox Hill about 45 minutes in. So yeah, if you want to go ahead and roll the clip, and I'll just start talking through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so about here we're watching Lock In, and we're going into Fox Hill, and this is where we really see the group begin to break apart just as we're hitting that really steep descent here. We'll actually see a front group of riders, about 4, begin to just pull away. And I mean, you can see it here that the pack is just fracturing. Like, there is not a lot of pace line. We're really seeing the various weights, the various powers, and the various power profiles really come into play here as the sprinters are forced to contend with, this like 8-10 minute hill where they just have to put consistent power forward. And I think one of the questions that really comes up is, why are people always attacking on hills? Like, why don't we attack on the flats? And I think this here is a great example. When you're going at, I think we're going at like 12 kilometers an hour here, there just isn't a lot of draft. So if you're putting more work into it, the people behind you can't take advantage of the work you're doing. So it's easier to grow that gap. And I mean, you can see it growing here on screen. We just have those 4 riders working together, gapping the pack. And even the chase pack is, fracturing from the rest of the group at this point. And then, as we come to the top of the race here, just like the hills are a great place to attack, what do you think about downhills? And again, we talked about the leg snapper. I brought up, the leg snapper is a great place to attack, because if you can get over that hill, with a gap, you can then rest and force everybody else to sprint to catch up to you while you're sitting very comfortably in an arrow tuck here. Yeah, and I just want you guys to look up at the power that our racers are putting up here on the screen. We're seeing 300, 400 watts. Phenomenal, particularly in the middle of this 90-minute race.
You want me to skip to the part where he puts out a lot of power on the one uphill, Jacquie?
Oh,
It
yeah.
looks like I
Oh,
edited
yeah,
this
please.
incorrectly.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, so
Hey, everybody.
with us while the world is buffering. Yeah, so now you see an individual rider just trying to dial in that own pace, what can I do for 10 minutes by myself without a draft, without anybody pushing me, knowing that I can't really get up to the gap. And I think that's really important to keep in mind as we do big hills like this, and even as the Zwift Racing League contemplates the big Innsbruck Hill tomorrow and the rest of the week.
Yeah, so here's one of the points I think you wanted to really emphasize about going harder when it's steeper, Jacquie.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I completely forgot about that. So the other reason, we really like to attack on hills, and particularly for taller riders like myself, when you're going slow, when you're going this 12 kilometers per hour, more of your power goes directly into speed. And so, you know, it actually makes sense if you're doing a time trial, if you're planning out what sort of wattage you want to put in a race, it actually makes sense to go harder on hills because you're losing less of that power to air resistance. You're losing less of that power, yourself going fast. So you see a much better correlation between the effort you put in and the time you get out.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, so this race was super interesting too, Jacquie. I thought because I followed Locken, who was in fourth or fifth for most of the race, and as I looked through Zwift Power, and I looked, you try to find the top Zwift Power person, but there were a ton of Bs entered into this field actually. Um,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was a very odd race. Like I didn't realize it. So like a lot of Bs. I mean, out of the top 20 people on Zwift Power, they were Bs, and so it was very weird. It had to be frustrating as a C rider to kind of race against these people. And Locken ended up being the top C. That's right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So
Yeah.
And
So
he must be up near 100 kilos because he was putting 500 watts down, and like that. I mean, to climb at that weight like that, that's impressive.
yeah.
That's really impressive.
and you hit the nail right on the head, and I think that some of the variability we see in these riders once we get down into like B and C categories is we can see excellent sprinters. We can see people who put out excellent watts on the flats. And a lot of times the dividing line is, I have this incredible 15-second power, but maybe not the 20 minutes to get me up a category. Or maybe I have, my weight is 90, 100 kilos, and I have just amazing raw wattage. But, again, it doesn't get me to that watts per kilo that I would need to go up a category.
Yeah. Yeah. And so Jacquie alluded to her earlier, but our rider of the week this week, this one I picked, and actually Jacquie and I didn't even think up on this earlier, but it's Karen Loomis who got third in that vegan tofu tornado race. I went and I looked at her power profile, which is, I mean, she looks like she has a great sprint, good all around, but she's had some really, really good results in January, and I think I know she's the second ranked C rider for the women. So, I just wanted to give a shout out to Karen. Way to get after it. I mean, you see some wins, some second places, and those are overall. Those are mixed category wins. So she's just doing absolutely fantastic. And shout out to Karen. Nice job, and keep it up.
Yeah,
Congrats.
congratulations, Karen.
And,
So
I'll add on to that trend quickly. In the B race, there was a woman named Jane Getz who's on the Vegan Badgers women team, and she ended up 8th place out of all those Bs. And she was putting the hurt on Box Hill. It was great to see because she was dropping all the guys. Obviously, a lighter weight rider, and she kind of bided her time and she took it to them, and that was great to see also. So, women racing in the other categories is awesome to see.
yeah. All right. Well, next up we have our team interview. Jordan, you want to introduce it, and we'll throw it on.
Yeah, so we had dirt cycling last week. This week we moved to Dutch diesel cycling. Completely sort of different vibe about this, different type of community. Lots of different layers to what's going on here, and I think it'll appeal to a lot of the people watching if they're looking for a team or just looking for some really fantastic group riding options here. All right. Well, welcome to the Team of the Week segment here on Outside the Draft, the weekly Zwift Racing Roundup. And we have Eric here from Dutch Diesel Cycling as our Team of the Week. Welcome, Eric.
How's it going?
Good. And we're happy to have you on. Last week we had the Dirt team on here, Dad's Inside Riding Trainers. Now we have quite a different team with Dutch Diesel Cycling. Let's start. What's the general background of the team? How did it get started? What's the meaning of Dutch Diesel and all the rest of that?
All right. Okay. So let's see where I start. Right. So let's start with the meaning of Dutch Diesel. So Dutch Diesel really was my nickname on the race team. I was kind of this steady, big rider. Like keeping teammates out of the wind, closing gaps, and those type of things. So it was my nickname. And so when Zwift kind of came along in 2015, I started this with not a smart trainer, just a regular fluid trainer, kind of trying it out. And pretty quickly after that, I moved to smart trainers. And the first experience that I had on Zwift was like, wait, even in virtual worlds, my weight is a disadvantage, right? Like being a big guy. And so I asked the question, like, hey, is anybody interested in group rides for, Clydesdales type of riders like myself? And that was kind of the start, right? So in January 2016, there was no event modules, nothing. There was this Google Calendar out there where you would organize your rides and you would meet, in our case, in Richmond at the start-finish line and started riding. And really, the first ride I organized, there was only one person that showed up. And, that kind of started growing. We called ourselves actually Pacific Clydesdales, just because we're on the Pacific side of the United States. And, again, my first goal was like, hey, let's ride with like a similar weight group to not get dropped on the hills, for example, all the time. So after a year, so I think we're now 2017, we started changing the name because I have a small coaching business on the side. And I kind of wanted to align the two because, my mission really is inspiring the next generation of riders, right? I've done coaching clinics for middle schoolers on the mountain bike. I'm coaching adults just for the regular, annual training plans. And then Zwift was kind of an extension, like a different generation of riders, right? Like going more indoors on virtual platforms. And so anyway, so I aligned the names, and that's where Dutch Diesel Cycling really is coming from on Zwift as a team name.
Right. Well, that's a super interesting background. I did not know the team was that old, like one of the original Zwift teams. We talked to Dirt last week, started in 2018, and you were a couple years before that. And I was also on in 2015 on Jarvis. I remember, when the event started, it was kind of a whole underground thing. You had to know the right people, and you would just log on and you would see a group together, and you would wonder, like, do they all, know each other and stuff. So that's really cool. And you've obviously gone the whole evolution where group riding is maybe the most popular form of Zwift for a lot of people. So that's really cool.
It's so much easier.
Yeah, it's a lot
so much easier. You have to put the kind of like an abbreviation of the ride in your profile so you knew who was part of the ride.
Yeah.
And, like if you lost each other, it was hard to find each other. But, the event module has made that so much better. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and you can attract the right type of people automatically to your rides. And so let's talk more about the team, comparing it to all those other teams out there. What do you focus on in terms of rider experience? You mentioned like the group ride and sort of onboarding people onto Zwift a little bit. But yeah, what can people expect if they sign on to the team? What are you focusing on, and what are the values there?
Right. So the team on Zwift Power is, there's only a subset of those riders that are really, like on the racing team, and we're really talking about the ladies racing team, right, with Sam, CJ, and Tammy and others. But if you sign up for like a group ride of Dutch Diesel, what you can expect is actually a very supportive environment where we're trying to push riders to the next level, right? So we don't want to necessarily make it super easy, but we also don't want to disillusion, the rider that's showing up, right? So we are drop rides, but we keep the group together, and we really stay at advertised pace. And then if you take it throughout the week, we're kind of following a sort of a structured program, right? Where on Monday, Sam's ride, the Dames ride, is more of a recovery ride with some fun sprints in there. Tuesday, the one that I lead is more like kind of, bordering a B ride, where we're really, trying to be in that power zone 4. I mean, individuals, some will be lower, some will be higher. And then throughout the week, we throw in some zone 3, some fun rides where you do like a 5-minute power type of segment in there. And then on the weekends, we do the longer rides, which kind of simulate what people usually would do on the weekends outside, right? So it's kind of following a program with different intensities, but all about, riding as a group and pushing others to the next level.
Right. And just to touch on, you mentioned the Dames. The Dutch Dames is the women's equivalent or side of Dutch diesel cycling. And so you have a good sized women's contingent then?
Yeah, we have 37 riders, 27 or something like that are A and B B and C riders. And they are participating like on average in 4 races a month. Right, they're doing the team time trial, the WTRL, which is really popular, and then they have some I think some herd races that they're doing. And again, like the spirit of the racing team is really, wanting to be competitive without being pressured to race. Right, a lot of times, even on the racing teams, right, you sign up for a minimum of races you're doing. We don't have that. Like, if you want to race with us, it's a supportive environment. I don't get too much involved. It's more like Sam, CJ, and Tammy that are kind of the race directors. They organize everything, and they're just having tons of fun. And the only thing I hear is that it's a great group, supportive to each other, etc. And that's really what I want for what I'm doing with Dutch diesel cycling. It needs to be supportive, it needs to be inclusive, and not sometimes, not everybody, right? But sometimes outside racing teams, they can kind of become a little elitist. I don't think that's what cycling should be about. I think it's all about the love of the sport and promoting and exposing people to that. And so again, like Zwift is just an extension of that mission that I want to accomplish with Dutch diesel cycling.
Well, that's fantastic about the women's, especially with that attitude of progression and less pressure and bringing people in sort of at that pace. We've talked about that a lot, actually, with the show and otherwise with Jacquie, trying to get more women to show up to the races. And probably, she talks about the top level with the A's, but how do you get more A women racers? You have to start and move people up. And so you're doing that, and you give them all the tools. That's great to do that at their pace. So Zwift Power says you're 160 or so riders. And like, if you look at the flags beside the name, you have a huge span: North America, Australia, Europe, of course, the Netherlands is pretty well represented. How do you keep everybody together? How do you communicate with everybody with that spread and so many people involved?
Right. So again, right, a lot of these people just joined on the Zwift Power, and I don't think they're necessarily active racing. Right. If you also look at the rankings, there's only a small subset. So the women, they use Discord. They kind of have specific Discord chat channels and voice channels that are for their races. But if you take it from an overall group community perspective, we have a Facebook page, Dutch Diesel, I think it's Zwift Dutch Diesel. We have Discord channels, right, for group workouts that I lead, for the regular group rides. And those are, and then now the club functionality in the Zwift app, right? Even though there's not much activity there, we use it to announce certain rides, but the chat functionality, for example, is not that active. That happens more on Discord and on
That's
on the
cool. We talked to Dirt, and they have 30 something Discord channels, but it's great to hear that like at all levels in these group rides they're using Discord. I never used Discord before I joined Finesse Racing, and I think it's such a cool aspect. It adds a lot even to those group rides. So you're supporting each other, keeping each other in the ride and stuff like that. So that's great to hear, and it brings people together from all these different time zones who would never ride together before.
right. And
Uh,
that's the most amazing piece to me, right? I've never thought that a virtual platform could actually build friendships. In the Dutch diesel cycling community, we have people that were traveling to different states, and they actually met up with each other to do an in real life ride. And you really see friendships develop. And I think tools like Discord even make that better because you can actually connect through voice and conversation, which is the next kind of
yeah.
most personal that you can get, like in a virtual world. So yeah, I think that was the biggest surprise to me. I never thought that would develop, in communities
Does help
like
those rides go by a bit quicker when you can chat and share a little bit
right.
real time. And so then Dutch diesel cycling is a little bit unique because you mentioned your coaching business, you offer personalized coaching. So you have your workouts, your structure to the week, which is an important aspect. And then if people want to take it to the next level, they can get in touch with you for some personal coaching that sort of works in tune with it.
Correct. So I have kind of two levels, right? So I'm a big believer in structured training. You need to do if you want to progress in cycling, right, to the next level. I think you need to put structured training in your program, in your weekly routine. Now, I also understand that having a coach might be too much for certain people, right? To have like an annual training plan and all these workouts and goals to meet and stuff.
Sure.
So, but I also have experience and believe that if you do put a little bit of structure in your routine, you will also have gains. And so, for that reason, I started my Wednesday group workouts. So again, right? So I plan a meetup. People join. I have a certain workout scheduled, and we kind of follow the traditional base build, race phases, and I tailor the workouts and progress them throughout the weeks.
Right.
And so that gives people at least a flavor of what it is.
Yeah.
And if that's all that they want to do, it will also provide them still with benefits, and I can see them getting stronger. And I provide coaching during that session on Discord, right? I give tips about pedaling and form and what this workout is about, etc.
Yeah, and then if they want to go, they want the full on, they want to get in touch with you, they can do that too. So that's kind of
Yeah.
unique. And hearing that you do the periodization with group rides. I don't think you see that too many places, and certainly not within a team on Zwift. So that's a cool aspect as well. Unique appeals there. So looking to the future, you've been at this a while, 5-6 years already on Zwift. Is Dutch diesel cycling where you want it to be, or do you want to take it to a different place in the future? What kind of developments do you see?
Right. So I'm happy with where Dutch diesel cycling is. We're not the biggest team out there, or we don't have the biggest group rides. We have grown a lot. I mean, I told you about started with one, and now on like a Sunday ride, we attract like between 500 and 600 riders on our Sunday group ride, and that's because we now include the European time zone. So I don't necessarily have to be the biggest Zwift group, but I would like to see it grow into maybe like an annual summit, right? Where you organize, and COVID has kind of put that on hold to even think about the logistics around that. But when that all clears up, I seriously want to think about like, okay, how can we plan an annual summit, right? That again fits, a team camp kind of
Yeah.
period in time where people, if they want to travel, can all get together, and you can ride outside and even create stronger bonds inside the community. So that's something that I would like to develop, in addition where we are today.
Yeah, well, that we can all look forward to that. That's you hear that with a lot of the racing teams, like, oh, we should all get together. And then when you're talking about such a huge group, But a team camp would be great. To show up at a team camp where you already know everybody and you've already ridden hundreds or thousands of kilometers with each other, that'd be pretty cool.
Right.
So yeah, we're to wrap things up. We're in peak Zwift season. I think we're at 49,000 riders at a time on there.
Right.
Everybody's talking about Zwift. Everybody's hopping on. You mentioned your weekly rides. Anything in specific you want to plug that's coming up, or just mention those rides in specific so people know the times and when to go.
Right. So a couple of things there. So the big event that we have been training for, right? So perfect for if you're in base season, right? We have since November, every other week we have been organizing these endurance rides where we were building up to riding 100 miles. And so next week on the 30th of January for kind of the Pacific time zones, we ride 100 miles. Wow. And everybody's welcome. And then for more of the Eastern United States and European rides time zone on the 31st. So, everybody's welcome to join. But a lot of them have been training, for the last 3 months to get there, right? So we have been slowly building up from 40 to 60 to 80 miles. And so next week is the 100 miler.
Great. And what kind of pace are we looking for that?
So there's always a big discussion, right? What is a certain watts per kilogram for me is higher for others. So I've learned it being a big guy. So 2.3 average is going to be watts per kilogram is going to be the pace for that ride. And we do 2 stops, 2 breaks at the Dyno gas station on the waistband, one at 37 and one at around 70 miles. So where people can just refill the water bottles, take bathroom breaks, put on dry bibs if they do it. So we really want to make it.
Well, hey, not too many Zwift riders have that 100-mile jersey still, so that's a good one to get. And even if folks don't think they're ready for the 100, they could show up and do 20, 40, 50 with you all. And no better way to meet people than to do something really big like that and try it on. So
there's 3 jerseys, right? You have the 100 kilometer, the 100 miles, and then the thing that we do when you complete a Dutch Diesel cycling group ride, you also get to keep the virtual kit, the virtual Dutch Diesel cycling kit. So if you've never ridden with Dutch Diesel, you've never done 100 kilometers and never done 100 miles, you will have 3 jerseys in one ride.
And the Dutch Diesel one's pretty snazzy, the orange, it's good. So you get a whole closet full of jerseys. So that's the 30th or the 31st, depending on the time zone. And Dutch Diesel Cycling, look them up on Zwift Power, look them up on the companion app with those rides, almost every day with you guys. So, all right, sounds like a plan. I think that'll appeal to a lot of people. That's good stuff. So thanks, Eric. Thanks very much for coming on. And I'm sure we will see you out there.
Absolutely.
Can't hear you, Rick.
I was muted. I'm a pro at this. That's why I make the big dollars, right? No, so yeah, that was an excellent interview. Really, really cool team. They've done a couple of the match races that we've put on here. And yeah, so just really neat. So you guys ready to get the one big tip sprung on you with no notice? All right.
Oh, yes.
All right, I was going to make it really hard, like weigh in on EPO or something like that. But instead, in the spirit of the ZRL, what's your one climbing tip for Zwift? And if you want, I can go first. Mine will be easy.
You go for it.
Mine is that watch the video that Monnalee Keller, where she coached Katie Enright on No Breakaways Wednesday. Shameless plug. She gives a ton of great tips, far better than I could ever give a tip on. Her going up that Innsbruck KOM, because it was the same race, was just fantastic. All right, Jackie, let's hear yours. Since you just won a climbing race today.
Thank you. My big tip is know that if you're with a pack, the hill is actually going to start faster than it finishes. So be prepared for, the first, 25% of that climb to maybe be cooking a lot faster than you're comfortable with. But it's a Zwift race. It's going to start out fast. And if you know sort of the tempo of the race, it's going to cool down, and you just have to hang in there, hang on to that draft. Every 10 watts counts.
Like that one. All right, Jordan, let's hear it.
My tip is going to be almost the opposite. A really common thing is people go into these climbing races and like, this is the watt per kilo it's going to take, and I'm going to do it. And you just got to be realistic with yourself. Like in ZRL, every point counts. And so if you can make it, if you think you can suffer at like 10% above your threshold for 4 or 5 minutes and make it until it settles down, by all means do that. But be realistic. You know what your FTP is, and stay within it. And because it's always a better feeling to be reeling riders in and ticking them off. And because everybody goes out hard, like Jacquie said. So stick to your paces. And because blowing up halfway up this thing is not going to result in the fastest time. So I'm guilty of it. Every racer's done it once or time or another. So yeah, just pace it out and you'll reel them in. And I would say there'll probably be riders getting into the top 10 that way on some of these, because people will start way too hard. So just pace it out.
Slow and steady. Well, that's going to be me. Slow and steady. We'll get hopefully top 30. That's the goal here. All right, so we have some live questions, lots of chat. I see Adam Zimmerman, who was the guinea pig for doing all this at No Breakaways. The very first video, he was so cool. I emailed him like out of the blue and asked him to do a video, and he's like, "Yeah, let's do it." So some guy who'd never done anything. So I see Adam's in the chat, but yeah, we have a couple questions, and one is for each of you, men's and women's race. You can answer your gender or both genders, whatever you want to do. Who is the Premier League favorite tomorrow? And Jordan, you can't say you.
Go ahead, Jacquie. I don't know as much about the women's field, although I like watching it. I don't know the top favorites for this.
So women's field, I think, is going to be really interesting. Week to week, I think Team Hino puts together a fantastic strategy. I know that, at least for me, a lot of my personal strategy last season was watching for them to make the big moves. So I think particularly with the leg snapper, with the multiple points in the race where this could just set on fire, they're definitely the ones to watch in terms of setting the tempo.
So your pick as one of the Hino riders to win the overall?
Ooh. I will say I will pick their team to win the overall. I don't know about any individual riders. That one's much more interesting with the sprint points.
Okay.
All right. That's how you know Jacquie's a fair and balanced journalist, because she's on Ceres and she picked.
I know. Well, I was, if she would have said, because I'm sure she in her mind knows that Ceres is going to go 1 through 5, right? But
yep.
She's very kind not to say that.
I just don't want to paint a target on their backs,
Yeah. Well, yeah, you don't want to give away their strategies, right?
Yeah.
All right, Jordan. Yeah.
I obviously would like to be up there myself, but you don't pick yourself to win. I'm not Babe Ruth. I can't call my own shot here. So yeah, I think there's a couple like real top climbers here. Freddie Ovet, who was in the World Tour last year with Israel Cycling Academy, now on Legion. He's done some incredible in real life climbing performances. He's had some of the high numbers when you've looked at the results on Zwift Power from these first couple races. He'll be up there. But I think that the men's race is going to go up this thing at like almost 30K an hour. So I think you'll see some big powerhouse riders who have a lot of fitness make it and contest the end. So maybe a Vujasin, if I'm saying that correctly, Lionel Vujasin, a Canyon, one of these guys with a big monster kick and a big engine. Wouldn't be surprised if they steal this one from the climbers and frustrate us skinny guys once again. So there you go.
I see in the chat, Michael thinks Christian Kolczynski has a good chance. So yeah, not a bad pick either.
Oh, I mean, she's fantastic. I mean, if we're talking about climbers, she's definitely a good pick, and she's got the speed to prove it too.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna pick Monolith for sure, and then see Jordan's in it, so maybe Jordan. If out of Ryan Larson races, I'm picking him. I'm picking all the No Breakaways people I think are racing, and it's going to be one of them. That's what I think. That's my incredibly biased pick.
The no breakaways curse. You saw it here first.
Yeah, right. Okay, so Michael asks, what's the best way for new riders to improve quickly on Zwift? He's a lockdown newbie to cycling with an FTP right around 2.7 watts per kg, and he wants to progress. He's not sure whether to keep racing where he seems like he's plateaued or do some structured training.
Both. You know what? I think both are absolutely great ideas. Particularly if you go on the Zwift Academy, I think that's a great series of 8 workouts. I actually did it this year, kicked my butt. And, with those 8 workouts, I actually saw some great fitness gains in my 1 and 5 minute power categories. So I would say keep racing. It's fun. It'll keep you motivated. But definitely just try some of those structured workouts as well, because I think they really push you to find where your weaknesses are and what you struggle either mentally with or physically with, and just kind of push you to break through those barriers.
I'm going to give myself a little plug here. I run a coaching business, peakformcoaching.com. There, I've earned that. We're 2 hours into this project. I've earned that. But yeah, I agree with Jackie. Keep the racing in. But as a new rider, what we're looking for is aerobic development. Though this sport is aerobic, it's about how much power you can sustain, and then all the sprinting and stuff comes off of that. So you got to do some structured training. You can't race 2, 3, 4 times a week. I would do 1 race a week and try to make it really quality. Pick a course and a pack where you can sort of work on your skills and enjoy it and compete. And then I would do a lot of interval work, and maybe the academy is a good option for this. There's tons of intervals on Zwift now, where you're doing stuff that's not like bleeding out your eyeballs hard. You're doing some tempo stuff that's under control. You're not like in your anaerobic zone all the time, and just trying to put in more time there. And more time overall. Like, you don't need to do 20 hours a week. You don't need to do 15. But if you take your hours per week from 4 to 6, you're going to see a good gain there. And just do something like you can be consistent with over the months here. Like, this is a long-term game. You're going to go from 2.7 to 2.9 to 3.5. But it's going to take a long time. And it's awesome, man. You're at the beginning. You're just going to keep progressing. It's the best part about cycling.
Yeah, I mean, I can say a little bit. So I listen to the Trainer Road podcast a lot, which is just fantastic for a lot of this, and I follow some of their stuff. But so I kind of went from like the middle of Cat B to the pretty high end of Cat B from maybe like the start of lockdown till now. And what I found really helped me personally, and Michael, I'm guessing you're Cat C based on your watt per kg. What really helped me is I focused on 1 to 5 minute power. I mean, I had to raise my FTP to get kind of close to the top of that category, but 1 to 5 minute is going to get you in most of the Zwift races unless you like climbing. And the thing I did, and Jordan just mentioned it, and so did Jackie really, is I kept racing once a week. I'd race every Saturday because I was just the type of person, like, structured training for 6 months in a row is very, very, like, mentally I just can't do it. In fact, I couldn't even do it like 7 days in a row. Like, let me race, let me, and that's the cool thing about Zwift. Like, we're not gonna be like a pro, well, Jordan is a literal pro, and Jackie could be a pro, but like those of us mortals, we're not gonna be. Our thing is like, so like do what is fun, but also do the structure to make made the fun thing even more fun, because now, instead of being dropped in that second pack, I'm up with a top pack. And at first you're like super happy when you make it with the top pack. And then you're like, well, how do I get to the top half of the top pack? And then how do I win the top, So make sure you have fun and race, don't get crazy racing 6 times a week, because you won't progress. But, well, you progress some, but eventually you won't. But yeah, so excellent advice. And a second question, are longer endurance zone 1 and zone 2 rides the best way to assist weight loss? And he said he realizes most is a diet. So how much you do know about it, but
Actually, so this is a big focus of my coach in real life, my coach Chris, who does a lot of triathlon training. His whole focus is doing metabolic coaching. We've got the mask on that you can measure your relative consumption of oxygen to carbon dioxide output at different heart rates. So this has actually been one thing I've been focusing on, is balancing my time spent at these high aerobic training capacities versus these lower intensity focusing on fat burning. And it really comes down to physiology. Everybody has a different set point where they're going to transition between burning glycogen, which is sugar, which is carbs, as fuel, and relying on fat. For most people, you're going to burn more fat proportionately at lower intensities. And where that set point is based on diet. Where that set point is based on how you train. So it's actually been a a labor of 6 or 7 years now for me to go to a point where, personally, there was never a point where I burned primarily fat. Because as a swimmer who ate a lot of carbs and really enjoyed doing high intensity stuff, my body was just used to that. It's like, yeah, we can rely on all the sugar we've stored in your muscles and your liver. We're good. You can run a whole marathon and you're going to be relying on mostly carbs the whole way. But as I transitioned to focusing on longer races, it became more important, not just from a weight loss standpoint, but from an endurance standpoint, to be able to tap in to those tens of thousands of calories of reserve energy stored in fat. So again, that's altering your diet away from, maybe quick release carbs. That's training yourself and doing sort of feedback, like, where am I? Am I training at these lower intensities? For me, that's usually a heart rate of 130 to 140 and, longer times. So it is a labor of love. And ultimately, in terms of weight loss, you're absolutely right. It is changing diet. And it's also just finding whatever you can do most consistently in working out. If you can do, several hours a week at whatever intensity, whatever gets you motivated, gets you to stay on the bike, that's the best. That's going to be your key right there.
Yeah. Not much to add to that. Just you got it, man. The diet's the most important. And then for my athletes, it's always like, let's get the training done first. We want to do our intervals this day. We want to do this, this, and this. And that is not to lose weight. That is to train and get better. And then when we want to try to burn some extra calories, we can add the hours after that. And that's always going to be zone 1 to 2. So we're in that fat burning zone, and we're not adding a ton of extra training stress for the sake of burning calories, because we don't train to lose weight. We train to get better. And then the calories is an ancillary thing. But yeah, it's diet, man. It is so easy to eat 600 calories of whatever, of ice cream, and so hard to burn that off. At 200 watts, that's 55 minutes of riding. Like, that's a lot. So, it's tough, but it's hard to exercise your way out of a bad diet. And that's often repeated, but there you go.
Yeah. No, I actually lost from the start of COVID till now. I've lost about 15 pounds. And really it was through, consistent training and riding. Working from home, like, this is where I sit when I work, and my bike is 2 feet from me. So like, it's easy. So in fact, I have done meetings where I just like put a dry t-shirt there and I'm sitting in my bike shorts like this. But it's like consistency. And then, like I said, watch your diet. Like, I didn't go crazy. Like, I'm never going to eat sugar ever again. But like you said, Jordan, like I'd have 2 Panera cookies, chocolate chip cookies, and they're amazing. And I love them. And I just did it this week again too. But they're also like 400 calories each. And I'm like, there's like more energy. Like, if I could figure out like how to put that in my gas tank, my car would have more energy than gas. Like, it's just crazy. So like, what really helped me personally is just kind of understanding like how calorie dense things are that you don't even realize. Peanut butter and butter, and like the Panera cookies, I would have guessed they were like 150 calories. And like, it's not a big deal to eat 250 extra calories, but I was doing that and getting like 1,500 extra calories a day I didn't realize. So, and again, like, I didn't go crazy with it. Like, I just want to be top of Cat B. I don't have like Olympic aspirations anymore. So.
You don't want to diet your way into Cat A. You sure don't want to do that.
I know. I need to work on that's the goal, is that I work on my 5-minute to 1-minute power here in the off season, which is summer for me, enough where I can race Cat A. and I want to get my sprint better than you, Jordan, and try to coax you into a flat race and see if I can beat you.
I'll look forward to you kicking my butt on that.
I'm not going to challenge Jacquie to that same thing. I saw her sprint 15 watts per kilo. So about that.
Oh my God. You said you lost weight during quarantine. Because I've been biking so much, I put on 5 pounds and it's all muscle in the thighs.
Really?
Like, I have grown out of every single pair of pants I owned. I had to get custom slacks for interviews because I have true biker thighs now. It's fantastic. And it was exactly what you said. I was able to cycle more consistently. I was in control of my diet. And so I was able to put on muscle in a way that I never had before, now that I had, better control over my variables.
Are slacks like a type of things you wear on your legs? I only knew of sweatpants.
Yeah.
I don't even know what you're talking about, Jacquie.
Well, now it's scrubs because I'm back in the hospital, which are fantastic. Those fit nobody. It's equal opportunity, and they're just baggy.
Perfect. All right. Well, I think we better wrap it up. Hour 15. We could talk Zwift forever. I know this. So thanks everybody for joining in. Jacquie, is there anything you want to say? I know any plugs or anything like that?
Definitely want to say good luck, Team Ceres, tomorrow. You guys are awesome, and I will be cheering for you from my phone while I'm in the hospital. And also thank you to my sponsors, Noon.
Oh, you, Jordan.
All the finesse guys racing will be taking it on. If you haven't watched one of these events before, whether it's the Premier League or the ZRL, tune in this week, folks. I think it's gonna be really dynamic and nothing like you've really seen before with the Zwift racing. That and I already got the peak form coaching plug in there.
I know, but now you got another one. That was excellent.
Keep rolling that in. So that's been great, and thanks everybody for watching again.
Yeah, good luck to everyone this week in ZRL or whatever you're doing. We're taking submissions to Racers of the Week. If you want your community team to be featured on the show, let us know. Just drop a link in or drop a note in the comments, and I'll get in touch with you. And good luck to everybody. Obligatory YouTube like and subscribe below. All that.